This is a huge win for Team Trump, and it can't be overstated. So the Supreme Court is not hearing this until the end of April, which means a decision will not come from the Supreme Court until May or June. Well, it's pretty unbelievable that this almost seems like a little bit of a political stunt.
As the city braces for an influx of truckers,
the sudden push for preparedness has stores rushing to replenish.
As truckers' protest has disrupted life.
The New York Times reports several major investment firms are leaving.
Thank God for truckers.
Dre, what could this boycott do to prices, not just in New York, but for all of us across the country?
There are fences up, there are police officers on horseback, and they're going to have a security perimeter that stretches for several avenues here. And this is because of the two factors, the two issues that you sort of alluded to right there. The first is
Governor Kathy Hochul is warning
drivers take precautions, heed the warnings. So we're getting the warning out early so all the truckers and truckers associations can get the word out as well.
None of us want to put new money to work in New York until it gets resolved, because it's not just the governor's words about behavior, which none of us understand. I don't understand what you said there. It wasn't comforting to me. I'm just one investor. But I'm very concerned about the next step of seizing assets. Capital comes to America because of the stability of the justice system. And this is not stable in terms of many people's eyes, domestically and internationally. Seizing assets is what happens in Venezuela. It doesn't happen in New York. And so this is a little scary.
And of course, we heard Letitia James say it. She said it very clearly. If Trump can't come up with the $400 million, we'll just start seizing his assets. So you just heard Kathy Hochul say, look, this is an extenuating situation. This is an extraordinary situation just based on Trump. But look, let's be clear. They hate Trump. They can't stand the guy. It's a deep hatred for Trump. They want to stop him from becoming president again, and they're going to stoop to whatever levels it takes. That's basically what she just told you. So I don't know if you're ever going to get in their ire. I mean, if you become the person that they hate, maybe you're next. I don't know.
Well, that's why I'm worried about it.
I mean, it is a horrible, horrible look for the Department of Justice if it gets that far. And so there is a potential, of course, that, trials are not linear, as we're seeing now. The trial schedules are not linear. There is a potential that this goes past the general election. And then if Trump wins, then there might not be a prosecution at all.
Okay, so if the Supreme Court rules against former President Trump and decides that he can be tried, then what? Can you play out the scenarios here, best and worst case for the former president?
Right. If they do decide, basically, if the Supreme Court takes this up, which it's going to, and says, you know what, we agree with the two lower courts who ruled on this, there is no blanket presidential criminal immunity, then Trump is in no different a position than he is now. Then basically this all just gets put back on the trial calendar, and then you could potentially see a trial right in the middle of election season. Now, if Biden wins, then, the general election, then that trial will proceed if there is no presidential immunity. But like I said, if Biden loses and Trump is the president, the DOJ is not going to prosecute a sitting president. And also, it'll then be Trump's DOJ. And we don't know what happens to the prosecution at that case. It might just completely fall apart. Well, it's pretty unbelievable that this almost seems like a little bit of a political stunt.
And I'm sad about this because my kids live in New York. I want New York to be successful. I'm sick about this.
Yeah, well, a lot of people want New York to be successful. Me too. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stay there if this kind of behavior continues.
You want to think about the people who did business with Donald Trump. They made money off of those interactions, not just average consumers, but financial institutions. So for her to bring this case, I think is a legal and unconstitutional violation. And when that's overturned on appeal, she's now talking about seizing Trump's residences and real estate properties. I want to know what property of Letitia James is going to be seized when this is overturned on appeal for the damage this is doing to our country and to trust in the standard of the rule of law in the United States of America. We need accountability when this is overturned on appeal. But for now, I'll say this is a travesty of justice, and this should not happen in the United States of America.
Legal hits keep on coming for Donald Trump, and the world is waking up to the full banana republic nature of the judgment handed down against the former president in New York City last week.
The corrupt persecution by this regime will not stop with me. Oh, it's not going to stop with me. I mean, they gave me a fine of $355 million for doing nothing wrong. This was a fine like never seen before. And you know the amazing thing, the people in this country, they understood it immediately. It's all a big hoax. If I wasn't running, I wouldn't have been sued. None of these indictments would happen.
How much is this just the Democrats utterly weaponizing the justice system to punish Donald Trump?
Well, it's unparalleled and unprecedented. This statute has never been used in this way in the history of the state of New York. No comparable statute has been used in this way in the entire country. No case like this has ever been pursued against a leading political opponent of the presidential candidate, or anybody for that matter.
I've been indicted more than some of the greatest criminals in the world for nothing. For nothing. If my plane flies over a blue state, that evening I get a subpoena to report to a federal grand jury.
So we are in unparalleled waters. And consequently, what we're witnessing is we're seeing a lot of blowback from the business community, the real estate community, the investment community, saying that they will not do business in New York as long as cases like this are even capable. Because here this is extraordinary because there was simply no victim. The only alleged victim, the banks, testified on behalf of President Trump, said that they would not only do the deal again, they were glad they did it the first time. That it was an extraordinarily profitable deal for them to even be in business with Trump. But of course, Trump paid back every penny, nickel, dime, and dollar.
Last week, former President Trump was slapped with a $354 million judgment, plus interest that compounds every day in his civil fraud case in New York. The case brought by State Attorney General Letitia James. In an interview with ABC News, James warning Trump to pay up.
We are prepared to make sure that the judgment is paid to New Yorkers.
Can you explain that to me? What has happened to this great constitutional republic that is supposed to be, governed by equal justice under the law and equal application of our laws? Every American should fear this regardless of where they stand politically. That's what I believe.
This isn't the American dream. This is the American nightmare. And this is not even about Donald Trump. It's about every other American at home who's now at risk of prosecutorial abuse as well. I think one of the great things that happened for this country was in the last week, seeing Fani Willis actually testify in that case, Sean. There, the American public was able to see bare. These are the people who are actually pursuing these cases against Donald Trump. People have no idea about basic geography or the basic idea or the understanding of the law as well. These are not the people that our founding fathers envisioned should be in charge of, let alone prosecuting a former president of the United States and somebody who's running for president of the United States. They're rolling over in their graves. We're supposed to be a country where, regardless of your skin color, and yes, regardless of your political belief, there is one standard of the rule of law in the United States of America. And I'm grateful that Donald Trump is standing strong, that he's actually said it beautifully the other night. Actually, on Fox, on the town hall, he said it. You know what my vengeance will be? Success will be my vengeance. There's a trap to try to bait somebody, to come after them in so many different directions that you get them to crumble or to make a mistake. I'm glad to see him going in the other direction to say that, you know what, we're going to chase success. Success is unifying. Success is how we win. And you know what? I have full confidence that that's exactly what's going to happen this November, even though they've created a complicated path to get there.
The Attorney General saying if Trump does not have the money to pay off his judgment, she will go after some of his real estate properties, including the skyscraper at 40 Wall Street.
I look at 40 Wall Street each and every day, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets.
She will not succeed in that effort.
Commercial litigation and bankruptcy lawyer Leo Jacobs says A.G. James has to get in a long line of others before she might ever see a dime from Trump's properties.
Number one is the other lien holders, equity holders, judgment lien holders, taxes, New York City, New York State. The list goes on and on and on.
Which he says would take years. And as has been reported many times, Trump does not own every building bearing his name. Trump is known for licensing his name to other developers. And circling back to his recent civil fraud trial in New York, Trump has denied any wrongdoing and says he will appeal.
And now you have a court trying to limit his ability to challenge this at the appellate level by requiring he post bond of the full amount pending appeal, but that he do so in a manner that does not take into consideration the full value of his properties, or by borrowing from someone else, or by operating in New York. And so this is extraordinary. We haven't seen anything like this. Frankly, we haven't seen anything like this in the whole world in a long time. And that's why it's so terrifying.
And Robert, this is the thing that really concerns me, and this is what I always tell people. You know, it shouldn't matter whether or not you like Trump or think he's the worst human being ever to live. The fact of the matter is, today they're going after Donald Trump using the law. Tomorrow it could be some other person or somebody else who doesn't toe the line in whatever the kind of political regime of the day.
You're going to see businesses fleeing New York.
Right.
New York has become a legal banana republic.
Congratulations. Are you happy with the investment? They're all gone.
Well, some of President Trump's supporters are pushing back against what they see as an unfair justice system, threatening a boycott that could have a major impact on the country's largest city.
Heard that there were going to be 700,000 truck drivers protesting.
They work hard. They work long. Nobody works harder, actually. I know a lot about trucking. I know a lot about truckers, and I know plenty of truckers. They're great people.
Ridiculous claims, and ultimately the judgment is untethered to any number. There was no victim, no bank was lost any money, no insurance company was out anything. And so, this judge just picked a number out of the air, hoping to punish Trump, the Trump organizations, the Trump children, and others in the Trump organization. And I think it just is, it's disappointing. But, the other thing that's going to happen here, Rachel, is you're going to see businesses fleeing New York.
Right.
Just like Elon Musk left Delaware, you're going to see these businesses leave.
Well, the truckers in New York, where he was sued this time, have decided, well, we're with Trump, so we're not bringing any goods to New York anymore.
Some truck drivers say they're planning on refusing shipments to and from New York City.
Some of these truckers saying, you know what, we're not going into New York because of what happened to Donald Trump. If I'm just anybody living in New York and I see that headline and you hear what that woman said off the top of the show, should they be concerned?
Dre, what could this boycott do to prices, not just in New York, but for all of us across the country?
Well, certainly if truck drivers were to boycott New York City, the impact has the potential to be very damaging and very quickly. We're talking about supermarkets, big box stores, and other businesses that rely heavily on trucking. They would feel the pinch, and so would their customers. About 90% of communities here in New York City rely heavily on trucking to move their goods. This morning, we're on the Jersey side of the George Washington Bridge, and every day you can see hundreds, if not thousands, of trucks crossing the bridge from Jersey into the city. Meanwhile, one man is now telling truck drivers not to come to New York City after former President Trump was hit with that massive multi-million-dollar fine last week.
I've been on the radio talking to drivers for about the last hour 15 minutes, and I'm talking to at least 10 drivers going the other way. I'm heading down from South Wisconsin, and they're going to start refusing loads in New York City starting on Monday.
Yeah, the man calls himself Chicago Ray, and as of last night, his post on X, formerly Twitter, had garnered more than 6 million views and 60,000 likes. Former President Trump also caught wind of what Chicago Ray is doing and reposted Ray's video on his platform, Truth Social. But it's hard to ascertain exactly how many drivers are answering his call and what kind of impact it may have. It's not an organized effort, and the drivers expressing support for Chicago Ray, they're scattered all across the country. We did reach out to the Teamsters Union, the union representing many truck drivers, but did not get a response. We also contacted and tried to call at least the National Supermarket Association, which is based here in New York City, but did not get a response. Meanwhile, Chicago Ray says he and other truckers are irate over Judge Arthur Engoron's fining former President Trump more than $355 million for fraud. Ray, like the former president, believes it's a form of election interference. Meanwhile, we talked to one driver who says she's joining the movement to boycott New York City, and she says if things go as planned, the city could pay a big price.
How do you think Trump's fine impacts investors and businesses in New York?
Well, developers are all asking the same question. Is this fine, penalty, and interest commensurate with the act, the crime, so to speak, because as remember, there's no money's lost. There's no victim here. So essentially just under $500 million fine for a situation where no monies were lost. We're just wondering, does this make sense? And asking ourselves, how long will it take to the appellate court to bring it down to what a reasonable number might be? I have no idea what that is. But in the meantime, while this is going through the system,